the increase, and the worrying thing is children are having consensual sex. That is, they are not being forced to do so. Now, here's a look at some of those numbers. According to the survey of the 12 to 14-year-old children, 7% have had sex, with the average age of first sexual experience being 10 years. Now, 66% and 59% of women and men, respectively aged between 15 and 24 years, reported to have already had their first sexual experience. In this group, 21% had had sex before the age of 15. But are teenagers practicing safe sex? In the first sexual encounter among 15 to 19-year-olds, 27% of girls had used condoms compared to 24% of the boys. However, at age 15 to 17, more girls at 28% reported using condoms compared to 19% of boys. Now, according to the survey again, 61% of women and 72% of men aged between 18 and 49 think that children between 12 to 14 years should be taught about using condoms to avoid getting HIV/AIDS. In the former Northeastern province, however, only 20% of women and 12% of men support this. Support for teaching children about using condoms to protect them from HIV/AIDS is lowest among women and men with little formal education and among the poor. Now, Janet, of course, is in our talk studio with the panel. Janet, of course, people are already talking about this on Twitter. And, of course, we invite your comments on 22422 and on Twitter using the hashtag MondaySpecialKE. And the question, Janet, is, should parents bury their heads in the sand or should they confront this?
That's right, Hussein. I think before we come back to our experts, I'd like to get some reactions from our audience members. So whoever has the mic, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you think of the statistics that you've just seen on TV.
Hi, my name is George Gadiani. I am from Alliance High School. I was in school last year, cleared my Form 4. And I think these statistics, they do portray what is going on around society and among teenagers, but they don't really address anything because we are reporting on a problem, not addressing it. Right. Now, statistics say that between 15 and 24 people have had sex, but they don't ask why. They don't ask why these people are having sex at an early age. And I think what really needs to be addressed are not the symptoms of the disease. You say that you're having sex, we'd like to give you condoms, but go back to society. Now, for example, our conservative African nation, our parents never told us about sex. They wouldn't even approach the topic. Personally, my parents didn't say, George, do not have sex, do not do this. No. So we have parents, a foundation that is not willing to tell us about it, and we have authorities in the school who are all there shunning it and giving it all this mystery. And you feel that that needs to change completely? Yes, it does. Quick one before I give one or two of the other audience members something to say. Can I ask you when you first learned about sex, or who told you about it? When I first learned about sex, I was in preschool, around 6, 7, and you hear about it from people, your peers. They tell you about it, they tell you how people get pregnant, and you all have these weird ideas about it. Then later on, you start realizing that these weird ideas are not completely unfounded. So you go experimenting. Now, personally, I had sex when I was 15, which is, I must say, a bit of a young age, anyone would say. And why did I do it? Because personally, it wasn't a big deal to me. You learned about it when you're young. It's something you discovered. So it's more of a game to you than any life choice. All right. I'd like to come back to ask you how you feel it's maybe impacted you right now. Let's have some other views behind there. Your name and your views.
I'm Alice Masinte from Leitoktok, Kajiado County. I'm an activist against FGM and early marriages and all that. Now, the statistics is very, very true, especially in our area where I come from. I come from Maasai community, where sex cannot be told to maybe young children, because that is a taboo and a bad omen. So how do most of them learn about it? I can thank the Ministry of Education, because in the school curriculum, lessons about sex has been incorporated. Okay. So that's mostly how they learn about it. I'll come round. Okay, I'll come round and get more views. Sorry, you want to say something else? And also, like, we have an organization like the AMREF. The AMREF Kenya teach young girls about sex. All right, fine. All right, now let's discuss. I wanted to get their reactions to that. Perhaps I should start with Anita as a parent. Your own experience with first having the discussion about sex with your children. Have you had it, and what initiated it?
And how old were they when you talked to them?
It's very different for me because I think that all children should know that each choice that they make has a consequence. So I've spoken to, especially my oldest, who is 11, I've spoken to him about it because he has initiated the conversation. And I think different children are different, so different children will ask different questions, want to know different things, but you also need to know what they know before you start giving them information. You don't need to bombard them with everything about sex. But I will give them the truth and all the information. Will I talk about condoms? Yes. Will I talk about periods? Yes, because it's part of growing up and who you are, and both the boys and the girl.
But what language do you use? Your child is 11. Do you outright say this is sex, or do you sort of disguise it?
No, I don't disguise it. I use real names for all parts of the body. Let me give you an example of today. I said what I was going to do on this show. I said I was coming to talk about sex. The 6-year-old, you're going to do what? And clearly not ready to hear about it.
Right. But do they understand what it is at 6, or they don't?
Probably not, but I will initiate the conversation later. The 11-year-old wanted to know what about it? And so he will watch the show with me, and then I will get him to ask the questions and see where it goes.
All right. Before I bring in Peter, who's a researcher, let me bring you in. And of course, Anita, you can step in and agree or disagree. But at what age should parents begin to talk to their children about sex, ideally?
I would say 4, 5 years.
4, 5 years?
Oh, yeah.
And you use the same terminology that Anita's talking about, or do you sort of shelter them from?
You use terminology that is familiar to them. So if you say, a 4-year-old probably will ask questions like, where do children come from? So the answer then should be simple. God gave mommy and daddy seeds, and when those 2 seeds come together, they form a baby, and that baby is born in 9 months. It's very simple, it's plain, it's within their level. I can assure you when you answer them that way, they'll stay a bit before they come back to you. They'll be satisfied.
Okay, and then as they get older, you kind of become more specific with the discussion. Peter, I know we were talking a little earlier about some of the research that you've seen. What have you observed in terms of sexual behavioral patterns with children nowadays that particularly stands out for you?
Let me say before I come to that, that society basically looks at sex, teenage sex particularly, as a threat, as something to be avoided. And so the basic approaches are looking at it in terms of risk avoidance, people who are calling for abstinence, like the churches, or risk reduction, where you accept teenage sex is there, and those are the statistics you're showing us. It is happening, abortion is happening, pregnancies are happening, premarital sex is happening, and infections and disease are there. So that strategy is based on how do we reduce because we can't avoid.
So you're saying there needs to be a lot more blatant and open discussions because that would, in a sense, reduce the risks, correct me if I'm wrong, of early pregnancies, of AIDS, is that what you're saying?
Yes, it would. And societies that have done best in preventing all the evils they fear are societies that are open with it.
You're a parent as well?
Yes, I'm a parent as well.
4 or 5 years old. Is that a little like what Leah was saying? Is that okay to begin to talk to your children at that age about sex when they ask?
Remember, I'm a father as well.
Yeah.
It's generally difficult for fathers to talk to children.
To have that discussion.
And they generally come to mothers.
Yeah, okay. I'd now like to hear some views here. You want to? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Charo Nyamawi. There is sex that maybe somebody initiated because they knew what they were going to do. And there is the part of sex that is introduced to a young person that they don't know what they're doing. Actually, they come and ask themselves much later years that what is that I did? What is that was done to me? Particularly myself. Consciously, I had my first encounter with a lady, maybe sexual activity when I was 15. But when I look back at the age of 4, as she said, I agree. We had a maid who supposedly was one of our aunts, so to say, because we had a foster father staying with our mother, so we were in the same house. So one day she was left with me, And as she went by, we used to help ourselves in the bush. So she took alongside with me. So something happened that later on, years later, I kept asking myself, what is it that was done to me? Was because she exposed herself to me, and she forced herself, or maybe she forced me onto her.
Okay.
And this is something I really talk to even my friends at workplace, school, that if you have a maid and you have a boy, you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
This is something which happens. So at the age of 4 is important. Had I known that that is what was being done, probably I could have accepted. Now, the second part is that after that as was done, at the age of 4, 6 years later, 6 years, at the age of 6, that is 2 years later, I happened to visit my grandmom's place. So we had so many kids there. And it was meant, because a young boy, you say, because he's a young boy, let him sleep with the girls because there's no space. And again, because something was done to you, you try to help, you try to mount yourself on top of her. And because she is aware of what is happening, she tells you, please come and sleep together. She even closed you up. And then if you try to do it, it doesn't work.
So you feel like if you had a better understanding of it, you might have made different decisions had you had someone have an open discussion with you about it.
What I say, let's call a spade a spade. She said at the age of 4 is very important. It's critical is that because I can remember things that I did at the age of 4 clearly.
All right.
Can't remember.
Very interesting. We want to, before we get your remarks, we're just going to take a short break. We'll be able to come back. Don't forget you can text us on 22422 or tweet us using the hashtag MondaySpecialKE. Share your views, ask your questions as well. We'll be back right after this break.